Hi everyone, welcome to Adventures with Heckenback. Today we're going to share with you our son's prize-winning top secret chili recipe. We have several tried and true chili recipes in our family that we come back to time and time again. But this one is a little bit different, and our son came up with it himself when he was a teenager. Her son enjoyed cooking and he had entered a chili cook-off, and this is the recipe he came up with. In case you're wondering, he did give us permission to share it, but also commented that he changes it a little bit every time he makes it. I think that's probably true for a lot of us. Let us know in the comments below if you have a chili recipe that you come back to time and time again. And do you always keep it the same or do you change it up? He won multiple cook-offs with variations of this recipe, and I'll explain some of those variations as we go. Okay, to get started, we preheated our Dutch oven, and then into that we put a pound of lean ground beef and another pound of sirloin steak cut into small pieces. Sometimes he makes it with just the ground beef, but usually with both. This is one of the ingredients he likes to experiment with. He's made it with many different types of meat, even sausage sometimes, like bratwurst. He made it with Cincinnati hot links one time. That was really good. Once the meat has started to brown a little bit, we're going to go ahead and add a diced onion and as many peppers as you want to add, whatever kind of peppers you want to add. So today I'm adding poblanos because I happen to have some of those in the freezer from our garden earlier in the summer. You can put however many peppers in it, make it as hot as you want. We tend to make it a little bit on the hotter side usually. I'm not making it hot today, but a lot of times we will put quite a bit of peppers in it because the chili does have a little bit of a sweet component to it. So you can make it pretty hot, and the ingredients that we're going to add later will tame that down a little bit. We're going to let the meat completely brown and let those vegetables soften up a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and add some seasonings. We're going to add a few cloves of garlic. Today I'm using this garlic paste. If it's good enough for Sam the cooking guy, it's good enough for me. We will stir that around and let it cook for a few minutes, and then we're going to add some dry spices. We're going to start with a couple tablespoons of chili powder, a couple tablespoons of cumin. I tend to go heavy on the cumin. I really like the flavor of cumin in chili. And several teaspoons of salt and pepper, of course. And then we're going to stir that around and let those spices kind of toast a little bit before we start adding the liquid ingredients. Okay, the wet ingredients start with beans. This is a chili recipe that has beans. So a combination of mild and hot or spicy chili beans, somewhere between 2 to 3 cans, just depending on how many beans you want in your chili. So with this one, I started with 2, stirred it up a little bit, and then decided to add a third can. And then we get to one of his secret ingredients. Our son doesn't like tomatoes. So instead of putting diced tomatoes, tomato sauce, or paste in his chili, he puts spaghetti sauce. So he feels like that doesn't taste the same as tomatoes. And it does add that little bit of a sweet component that I was talking about earlier. So again, he'll kind of change that up from time to time, whatever spaghetti sauce sounds good. After combining everything well, we're going to put the lid on and let it cook for at least an hour. It can cook several hours as long as you keep it on low coals and stir it ever so often. And then we're going to come back and add his other secret ingredient. So this is after about an hour and a half, and you can see it's still pretty thin. We would call this chili soup, not chili. We like our chili to be thicker. So this is where his other secret ingredient comes in. Now, I'm sure many of you have made chili with cornbread on the side, or even chili with cornbread spread across the top. So, kind of like a cobbler. And that was his intention when he first created this recipe, was that he was going to mix up the corn muffin mix and pour it on top of the chili and let it bake just like you would cake mix on top of a cobbler. But when he poured it in, he discovered that it didn't stay on top. It sunk into the chili because the chili was so thin, it couldn't hold the cornbread up. So he was like, well, in typical teenager fashion, let's just stir it in and we'll just see what happens. So you might think by looking at it, like, how is this going to work? How is this cornbread gonna cook? It does. So you stir it in there and it does cook. Like, you don't want to stir it too thoroughly. So just kind of, like ribbon it through it a little bit. And it does actually cook in there. You're not going to have big pieces of cornbread in there, but it acts as the thickener and you end up with these little tiny pieces of cornbread kind of dispersed throughout. Let it cook for about a half hour or so until you start seeing those bits of fluffy cornbread in there. We like to serve it with cheese and sour cream. Because it has the cornbread in there, you don't really need crackers. Because it is sweeter, it can take quite a bit of heat. So again, adding extra peppers earlier tends to work pretty well. It can handle it. Sometimes we'll add a little hot sauce here at the end as well. This is a heavy chili, so a little bit goes a long way. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.